everybody, this is Kendra with Kendra Pennington Holistic Self-Healing. Today I wanted to do an interview with myself about myself and the state of the world that we live in. So before you roll your eyes and turn everything off, I implore you just to listen and hear me out as a human being. I have discovered my path of yoga, teaching it, breath work, using spirituality with psychology, and being a trauma-informed life path guide. I'm obviously developing myself every single day, and I've grown a lot from where I was. I've lived many lives, and I've loved every single part of my journey, and that's led me here. So a little bit about me. Just because I'm a yoga teacher doesn't mean that I haven't done my fair share of lying, of cheating, of stealing, of drinking way too much, of being really angry and letting that rule my life, from being hurt by everybody and allowing the world to be the bane of my existence and blaming everything on the outside because I couldn't look at myself in the mirror really and see who I really was. What was I running from? What was my fear? I was a member of 4-H shooting sports. Not only a member, I held certain positions in their community as a teenager growing up through high school. I shot guns and went hunting, shot a bow and arrow, hunted with that. I've fished, I've done drugs, not hard drugs, so I don't have that experience. I'm a human being. And today I want to talk to you about trauma. Trauma is something that people look at as I was in a car wreck, so I'm traumatized, or I was raped or molested. I was in a accident, somehow that was life-threatening. I was shot at, I was in the war, or I lost a baby. I lost my entire family. But it doesn't have to be this loss, this life-threatening thing. It is something that affects all of us because we're not immune to it. Nobody is on the entire planet. So this conversation is also about unity. It's about really thinking about the fact that the people that you may hate, the people that you might have a really fearful feeling towards or a angry feeling towards, that person is just like you. That person has trauma. And that person's trauma probably rules their life, just like it rules most Americans' lives, because we don't know how to handle it because it hasn't been discussed enough, and it hasn't been discovered enough throughout all of these modalities, medically, I'm going to say in a lot of areas of our life that we hold true and dear. It hasn't been used enough to really get to understand a person. How about that? That's more of a political way of saying it. So whenever we are able to connect and understand that none of us are immune from trauma, and the person over in Australia has trauma also, and that fear rules their lives, then you're able to understand that the state of the world is in chaos and is angry and is in hate-filled motion and sadness because of trauma. It boils down to that. Every single decision made that is not of a loving, harmonious, peaceful space is because there is some type of fear at the base of that. If we allow our lives to be ruled by fear, then we're just going to keep creating the same thing over and over again. There is a ton of research that shows us that our energy is produced by what our emotions are on the inside. Emotions are produced by a thought, and it happens like that. It is so quick that you don't even know what's going on most of the time. So you might say, I'm immune to trauma. I didn't have any of that happen. Well, trauma isn't just that. Trauma is, did my dad reject me? Did my mom abandon me? Was I put in a group home? Did I grow up in a neighborhood where there was a shooting every day? Did you grow up in a household where there was fighting all the time, physically, emotionally, mentally abusive? Did you grow up in a society that was completely sanctioning itself off in a way that was separating you and basically putting you in a box, telling you that you can't be who you really wanted to be because you didn't feel like a woman, you wanted to be a man, or you wanted to wear lipstick and no one would let you as a little girl or something like that. Something small, just like those little things that don't allow us to be who we really are, which is a loving, kind person, okay? That's what is in the image of the creator, of the universe, of God, whatever you want to call it. Spirituality is love. It's that alignment. Whenever you look outside and you look up at the sky and there's the sun shining through the leaves, or you take that deep breath in and you feel the wind on your skin, it's that space that you're in that's alignment. That's what joy feels like. That's what alignment feels like. So if you veer away from that, that's whenever you have an opportunity to grow. Whenever I say veer away from, I mean that you will feed into a darkness. We all have. Because without that, what would we have to grow from? And so you should congratulate yourself and say, thank you for my darkness. Thank you for my survival reactions to fear. Thank you for that. But now that I'm aware of you, I'm going to grow and I'm going to change this, because that's the only way to change the state of the world. Whenever you are able to cope and handle the fear response in your body, then you're able to change the way that you are reacting and responding to yourself and the environment around you. Okay, example. My fear response is, the base root is rejection and abandonment. I have worked so hard to deal with this, and it's worked absolutely amazingly, actually. But I still get little bouts of it depending on a trigger. So a trigger is something that will ignite that fear response in your body. A trigger is different for every single person. It doesn't look the same for everybody, and the reaction is not the same for everybody. Okay, so my response is different than your response. Mine is more, if I'm in a crowded space, if it normally has to do with another person, okay? So some people are triggered by large crowds, or a certain sound, or a color, or word, okay? There's so many things. So without going into more of a neurological thing, whenever I'm triggered, my fingers go numb, my heart starts to race, my toes go numb, I get really dry in my mouth, and my vision is like this. It's almost like having a panic attack, so I've heard, I've never had one. And I know, because I've read a lot, what's going on in my body. I know that as a mammal, we have two vagal pathways. And I know that my body is in fight or flight. And it is almost in a way of shutting itself down, which isn't great. But how to cope and handle that is what I have learned how to do. Whenever you do that, you're able to get in front of it. Because saying that it's never going to happen, that's just not going to happen. Your body has worked so hard to keep you alive that this response is so synaptic and so fast that it happens without you even knowing. The whole thing is, though, learning how to understand when your body's there, change it. So your response is different. So you don't spew out ugly words. So you don't punch somebody in the face. So you don't run away. Just different ways of handling things. So it helps you to regain yourself and to calm yourself down in order to assess what's going on. Okay? It's super important that this happens because whenever we do this, we start carving new neural pathways in our brain. We prune away those old ones, and we're able to change our response. Meaning when we do that, we're able to lessen the severity of our nervous system response so we don't feel really gross afterwards, or we haven't done anything that's not bad, but something that doesn't make us feel good. It doesn't make the people around us feel good normally, okay? From that is growth. Then we're able to really start to look in the mirror. That's the hardest thing, is looking at yourself in the mirror, is saying, okay, the people in my life are mirroring me. The person in the mirror is mirroring me. My emotions are mirroring what's going on inside. So let's go ahead and remove those roots of trauma. Let's figure out a way to prune them and create new neural pathways for ourselves. Then comes in self-nurturing and kindness and love. Because if you don't have those things, or reverence for yourself, respect for yourself, value for yourself, finding yourself worthy, then how are you going to do that for other people? Okay? So the big thing is too, is your energy field affects everything in your life. It creates your life, but it also affects people in your life. It is a universal consciousness. The life that runs through the moon and the stars and the sun and the trees and the clouds and the birds and your next door neighbor, the person next to you on the bus, or person you're looking at the red light, that universal consciousness runs through them, runs through you. That life force connects everybody. There is no way out of it. So whenever you change your own energy field, then you start changing the energy field around you. So let's go into genetics really quick. If we are, sorry, my phone has this thing on it. Okay. If we are repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, we should look at our genes. We should look at what's going on in our family, or what has gone on. Okay? Staying connected to family is very important. You don't have to be around them, but staying connected to them and removing and releasing fear and anxiety and resentment towards your family and other people, obviously, is so important, because we need this connection of love and harmony to flow through us, okay? Remember that talk about alignment? Fear, anger, sadness, resentment, not forgiving people, especially yourself, all of these things block that alignment, okay? And we don't want to block our alignment. And the beautiful part about this is, if you look into your genetics and you look at your family and you're able to find compassion there and forgiveness, you're able to change the past, which sounds very quantum-y, and I'm not going to get into that, but you're also able to change the future. Even if you don't have children, you're changing the genetics of your entire family. Because I will say this really quickly, that the things that people try to keep silent, they're not silent. They're not silent. Abuse, stillborn, miscarriage, death, murder, that stuff doesn't stay silent, because that energy is so powerful that it has to come out. And you know what it wants? What this energy wants is love. This energy wants to be recognized, and it wants to say, hey, this happened and this feels like shit. Help me. Every person on the earth, there is something inside of them that just wants you to love them and listen to them. It just wants you to be a human being. That gets me a little emotional. So, once we can understand why people react and respond the way that they do, we're able to have a compassion. It doesn't excuse the person that molested you, raped you, murdered this person. It doesn't excuse it, obviously. But it allows you to say, hey, they are in such a terrible place. They don't know how to discuss their feelings, first of all, and they don't understand what's going on. So how can I help? I can help just by being a person who does know what they're feeling, who does know what's going on, and who is compassionate and loving and kind. So let's go into not discussing your feelings. There is something that has also had a light shed on it, is feelings. And knowing how you're feeling is super important. Allowing your children and allowing people in your life to feel safe, to not feel good all the time, that is very important. If someone says they're angry, give them space to be angry or sad or to cry. Give them space to be who they are, because everyone has a unique journey. It's not your journey, so stop trying to control theirs and let them be who they are. You say you love them, well then you need to love them when they're not happy, when they're not at 100%. Okay, and that's also where growth comes in for you and for that other person, whether it be your partner, your family member, your child, okay? And if you're practicing these things, then you're able to show other people how to practice it, because you're living your life that way, because you're using your words, because you're understanding your feelings, and because you're choosing to change. If you want change in the world, it doesn't happen by staying fearful and saying, well, I hope everything is great, and then keeping these really fear-based emotions and thoughts inside your body. That's not how that works. You have to change the way you feel on the inside, because that's the only way to admit change, is because it's through energy. Everything is energy. So collective consciousness is completely real. There was in one of my books, it talks about how sorry, my leg was going to sleep. It talks about how even though we weren't in these spaces with these people in the containment camps during the Holocaust, Red Scare, slavery, which wouldn't be a containment camp, but, you know, philosophically, okay, bombing, murdering, raping, these huge wars. And I'm not just talking about us, I'm talking about other countries fighting tribes and stuff with each other. Like, this actually is a universal consciousness. So the pain body of society as a whole, around the entire world, the energetic field of that pain body is inside of each one of us. Just because you are not in a village where people's houses get burned and the women get raped, or you're not in the city where there's a shooting every day, or you're not in a home where the person says that you can't be who you are because you're going to go to hell, or just because you're not in a place where your mom gets beaten all the time, or I don't know, there's a lot of emotional abuse, or, you know, you're not in a complete mass genocide, okay? Or even though you can't do anything about the rainforest in the Amazon being burned, you know, you think that you can't change it, therefore you don't look at it, and then you think it doesn't affect you, but it does, okay? So if we want to stop creating these cycles of fear and panic and chaos and hate, then it starts with you, the person in the mirror. No blaming, complaining, whining, or feeling sorry for yourself. Dr. Joe Dispenza. Okay? It starts with you. All of it starts with you. Okay? And do you really think that your mom wanted to be left by your dad? Do you think your dad wanted to abandon you? Do you think that your grandma wanted to be beaten? Do you think that your cousin really wanted to be raped? Do you think that your grandma wanted to have a husband that had sex with his daughters and you had no way out, or that your friend's family lived off of dandelions because they had no food. These are all true things. So, they didn't want that. Nobody wants to feel like shit. No one wants to feel like an animal in a cage. No one wants to feel repressed. No one wants to feel oppressed. No one wants to feel powerless. No one wants to feel scared. No one wants to feel that. So if they didn't want to feel it, then why are you allowing yourself to feel that way? And I say allowing because it is a choice. It is a choice. At this point, this day and age, it's almost 2020. It is a choice. There is so much information out there for you to get. There are so many places for you to go. There is so much out there for you to change your life. You have to choose to change it, to stop blaming everyone else, to stop looking the other way, to stop being angry at something that, honestly, in some way you're just like those other people. You may not have hurt anybody, but you're hurting yourself by holding in your anger. You're hurting yourself. Okay, and remember, this is a collective consciousness. This affects your children, your family, your next door neighbors, the person across the world. It affects the ocean. It affects the clouds. It affects the living, breathing organisms on this earth, because you are one. It affects everything. It's not about separation, it's about unity. So no matter what you're in, no matter what religion you're in or spiritual group you're in, it's about unity. Remember that. If something stops being about unity, then it stops being about source, it stops being about your alignment, and it stops being about the truth and the good for all. So what my work is to guide people through their trauma, to provide them with the way almost to handle their lives, because some of this stuff sucks to look at. It sucks a lot. There are areas around you, trauma-informed counselors, trauma-informed life path guides, trauma-informed life coaches. There's Kundalini around you. That is a huge, huge thing that you should look into, especially to change your magnetic field. There's a lot of books out there. Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's a lot of podcasts with Mastin Kipp. It's amazing. There's just so much out there that you can look into that might spark you. Eckhart Tolle, Thich Nhat Hanh, your local energy worker, your local Kundalini teacher, your local friend that deals with kiddos and teaches them, or your other local friend that makes jewelry. All of these people are important members of society that you're friends with, that you commune with, that are there. Go find them. Find your tribe that is for the love and the good of the universe, and allow yourself to grow and be healthy and happy and joyful. Allow yourself to see your darkness and use it as a springboard into light. Use it as a way to be strong, because strength is about looking at that shit and saying, thanks for being there. Thanks for keeping me alive. And we're going to get through this together. That's what it's about. So I had written down my talking points so I didn't veer off, because I'm good at veering off. I don't really know if anyone's going to watch this fully, or if it's even going to go over really well for anyone. But I know that I am here if you need me. I know people in my community are here if you need them. All you have to do is reach out, because we're all about changing the world with love, changing the world with intention, changing the world with actual physical action, but it's toward you. And no matter what you do with your life, no matter if you're part of a political group or not, or you're religious or not, or whatever, as long as you're acting out of love in every single way possible, then that's what matters. Smile at someone on the street, say hi to someone on the bus if you take a bus, be nice to the taxi driver who might be having a really crappy day, be nice to your waiter if they get your order wrong. Tell someone how good of a job they did. They sacked your groceries correctly. Look for acts of kindness. Hug people if it doesn't make you feel uncomfortable. And don't go hug random people. So hug people that you know. I don't know. I think that's it. That's pretty much it. You might be wondering why this got prompted. I'll tell you really quick. It's because in my hometown where I live, Odessa, Texas, you probably all know that if you've seen my stuff, West Texas, there was an incident yesterday that was pretty scary for all of us. Some people died. And, just because it happened close to home, it doesn't make it, I guess it makes it more surreal, but it doesn't make anything else less than what it is. Like the things happening in El Paso or Florida or, it's just like, it's kind of eye-opening that this is something that's there. And I think the base of what everyone's been talking about, the base and the root is fear. Everything's done out of fear, and that's not the way that the world works. It's not working, obviously. Okay, there has to be change. There has to be change in our medical system. There has to be change in our politics. There has to be change in our law enforcement. There has to be change in the way we go about looking at a human being. There has to be change in our religions, our spirituality, our schools, everything. There has to be a universal consciousness and shift and change, and it's happening because we're in the Aquarian age. But this video is made so you know why. Like, you don't want to keep repeating the same cycle. So be the change you want to see because you're powerful enough. You are. And you don't need permission to change. You don't need permission to be yourself. You don't need permission to be loving. Watch your charged emotions. When you have those, write those down and don't act on them. Don't respond to them. You respond and you react out of a place of alignment, because that's what's going to get you where you need to be. It's going to get society where it needs to be. It's what's going to break these vicious, nasty, hateful cycles in the world. That's what's going to break it. Okay? Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope you all have a really good day, and it's been nice talking and interviewing myself, I guess. If y'all have any questions, again, just contact me, and I will lead you in a direction that might be of more help, I guess, because my services are all about self-healing. Okay, bye.